Welcome to Trinidad and Tobago, where the government encourages you to install CCTV cameras in your homes so they could assist them with catching criminals. But suddenly, when that same footage catch police doing wrongdoings, then you become the problem. And then they threaten to fine you and to impose a ban on social media. Follow me for more motivational talks.
It takes a very reckless and irresponsible government to just shut down programs like that, not understanding the social fallout on ordinary people. And then your justification for it is corruption and criminality and what have you. Your role as a government is to go in and fix, and where you discover criminality, you take appropriate action.
This gentleman used the parliament's time, Mr. Deputy Speaker, to attack an individual who is not in this house to defend himself. And you know what is the offense that that individual, Mr. Ronald Harford, I don't know who this gentleman is. I've never met him. I've never seen him. I have no idea who he is. But the offense that Mr. Ronald Harford committed in the eyes of this member of parliament, the member of parliament for Port Springs North, St. Anne's West, is he said, and this is the headline that bothered him, Harford, we must hold the government accountable. That's your tax money being wasted. That is what offended him. That is what offended him. I fully endorsed this demand by a businessman that the government of Trinidad and Tobago must be held accountable, and citizens must not be bullied, not in this house, for when they stand up for their rights and demand accountability from this government. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I am particularly incensed by that. You attack a man because he is not here to defend himself, because you have a personal grouse. That is an abuse of this parliament. It is unacceptable. His presentation was designed to do two things: misinform and misguide. But the one thing he did that he talked up, the one truth that he would have said in his entire, 45 minutes that he ranted and raved about, the one truth is that this minister and his prime minister have been working assiduously in terms of the energy sector. They have been running down gas deals here. They have been holding the multinationals over the barrel, ensuring and insisting that higher rates are received from them. They're doing this gas deal, they're doing this gas deal, they're doing this initiative and that initiative. He's living in Venezuela more or less. Living in Venezuela. Every day something in Venezuela. But after all of that old talk, Mr. Deputy Speaker, oil down, gas down, oil production down, gas production down, revenue from the energy sector down. All of that is because this government has that gentleman, the member for Port Springs North, St. Anne's West, in charge of the energy sector. When will we recognize his incompetence? One last thing before I get caught up too much in this gentleman's misinformation. Something I need to clear up. The member ranted and raved again about what he remembered during COVID. How he picked up the phone and he had to call this one and that one. You know what I remember about this minister's presentation, what he did in COVID? He locked out citizens of this country, abandoned them abroad, refused to let them come back to Trinidad and Tobago. But the same Venezuelan company could have come in here. Citizens had no value for them then and have no value for them now. But Pedavisa could have come in here. I also remember that they had no idea. They didn't know who came. They didn't know what they come for. And when the facts presented itself, they came there for COVID guidance. They came to talk about COVID. All of a sudden, they come to talk about, there are other allegations, about oil transactions, etc., other allegations. But they insisted that senior executives from an oil company in Venezuela came to Trinidad and Tobago, a sanctioned oil company, on a sanctioned plane, sanctioned personnel, came to Trinidad and Tobago to discuss COVID with this government, while citizens of this country suffered, starving, begging on the streets in New York City and Canada, all over the world. That is what I remember with this Minister of National Security then. So he was a failure in national security. He was a failure in national security, and they come here now to bury the energy sector. We found evidence of misconduct in public office by senior government officials. This country was warned, Mr. Speaker, by the procurement regulator that $5 billion in 1 year, $5 billion in contracts were illegally given out by PNM government officials, as I said, in just 1 year, with no way of checking to see if ever any work was actually done. In typical PNM style, they offered the population temporary jobs in URP and CPEP, keeping them dependent, including their own supporters, while PNM bigwigs filled their pockets during the PNM decade of corruption. You will hear much more about that today during this debate, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, back then, opportunities for diversification was squandered.
Speaker, point of
difficult
order.
but necessary.
Minister of Finance.
48.1. This is nothing to do with the adoption of the report of the Finance Committee. This has nothing to do with it.
Overruled. The minister is merely laying the context. Overruled.
Thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, I know it
Minister
was
of Finance.
Sorry.
Hang on. Diego Martin noticed. I'm hearing the muttering, okay? That makes it even worse. If you know I'm hearing the muttering, yes, you were. I don't intend to engage in any form of disputatious exchange with you this morning. So let's just stop that. It's overruled, and I'd appreciate if you accept the ruling, except for other things. Minister of Finance, continue.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I understand the desperation on the other side. So just eat up the time. That's all they're trying to do, eat up my time, so they will not hear what the state of the country is, because they don't care, they don't want to know. But the country does, and we are obligated to report to the country.
When they want to ask us about where this and where that, where the 5 billion, Madam Vice President, I got up and I planned earlier on to end the debate without any form of or disagreement. But two things that I have to take objection to. One is the constant speaking down that Senator Alwari did to my very good colleague. You know, I have seen young people beg to come to places like this to be able to speak their truth, whether you like it or not. And Senator Rashid is entitled to his voice, and I thank him for his contribution. You see, that is why, Madam Vice President, when they talk about fairness, it is a travesty, and they speak from both sides of the mouth. In fact, when Senator Alwari talked about run on banks, he should know he was on the board of a company when that happened and did not take any responsibility for it. When they want to ask us about where this and where that, where the 5 billion, where the money from the Auditor General's report. So don't come and want to ask us to explain things when you yourself have yet to explain where the money gone. And if Senator Ragman Roberts want any more songbite, in the words of Patrice Roberts, they could rock so.
It is unfortunately an unethical, abusive tax, Mr. Deputy Speaker. It is a tax based on an income that people are not receiving. It's a tax based on a fictitious income, and therefore the fruit of the poison tree is poisoned as well, Mr. Deputy Speaker. It's a real tax based on fictitious revenue. It has been 9 years since this government has been trying to implement this tax. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I have in my possession three tax assessments. I will not display them. 3 tax assessments for the same property. 3 different property assessments for 2 different people. Mr. Deputy Speaker, amazingly, the owner got one of these valuations, and his sister, who stays with him, doesn't pay her rent, she stays with him, she received 2 valuations, and she never filed any documentation for this piece of property. But she is now being told, that is the young lady who lives in this place, she is now being told that because she is living with her brother, she must pay property tax or else, on penalty or else. That's not all. Of the 2 assessments, one she got is 5 times higher. 5 times higher than the other one. That alone should tell you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that the calculation of this property tax is random, arbitrary, and purely subjective. And it's completely opposite to what a tax regime should be. But the minister doesn't care as long as he gets his pound of flesh by the property tax, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
My fellow citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, we are now facing a serious constitutional crisis, one that strikes at the heart of our democracy, the integrity of our parliament, and the public trust that holds our nation together. This crisis follows Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessa's public claim that 2 independent senators sought personal favors in exchange for support for the Zone of Special Operations Bill. So why does the Prime Minister continue to refuse to name the 2 independent senators she says made this improper approach to a senior government senator? There was no post-cabinet press conference, no statement to the nation, no explanation in the Parliament. This continued refusal to provide the particulars of such a serious allegation must now be viewed as an act of misconduct in public office. If her allegation is true, then 2 people sitting in our Parliament were prepared to sell their votes for personal benefit. And if that is the case, why are they still there continuing to sit in Parliament and vote on serious matters that directly affect the lives of the people of Trinidad and Tobago? This is not political peacock. This is a bribery allegation that puts the integrity of the parliamentary process itself on trial, with the implication that votes can be traded and influence can be bought inside the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. Mrs. Persad-Bissessa cannot launch such a serious allegation in public and then behave as though it is somebody else's responsibility to supply the facts. The Integrity Commission has already made it clear that it cannot act without names and specific details. This is precisely why the Prime Minister's silence is so dangerous. It leaves a cloud over the entire independent bench and erodes the public confidence in Parliament. How are citizens supposed to have faith in our democracy when individuals accused of such serious misconduct continue to hold some of the highest offices in the land? So I ask plainly, is the Prime Minister protecting corruption? Because refusing to act, refusing to name names, and refusing to report these matters properly is not governance, it's lawlessness. And another serious question must be asked. Why did she allow the Senate vote to proceed, knowing fully well that according to her, the integrity of the process had already been compromised? Failing to report such a serious matter beforehand amounts to gross negligence. Or was it her intention to remain silent if the vote had gone in her favor? Trinidad and Tobago, this is bigger than party politics. This is about trust. And right now that trust is being destroyed. When allegations of corruption are made at the highest level and no action follows, confidence in the Senate collapses, confidence in the Parliament collapses, and confidence in leadership collapses. And so the Prime Minister must do one of 2 things. Name the senators and allow the law to take its course, or withdraw the allegations entirely and apologize for the damage done to the credibility of our institutions. Trinidad and Tobago cannot be governed by whispers and insinuations and political games. We deserve truth, we deserve accountability, and we deserve leaders who put the country first. I thank you and God bless.
Trinidad and Tobago's 2026 budget just dropped, full of promises, tax changes, and serious debate. So let's break down the pros, the cons, and who's smiling and struggling after this debate. Let's dive into the pros. 1. Super gasoline is now $1 cheaper, which saves the consumer $50 a fill-up, approximately $600 a year. Number 2, private pension tax removed. Number 3, a construction boost. Import restrictions on clay, limestone, and sand now gone. Number 4, the food basket has now expanded. No VAT on everyday items such as salt, pumpkin, lettuce, tomatoes, coconut water, just to name a few. 5, foreign used cars. The age limit on foreign used cars jumped to 6 years old. So now let's look at the cons. Number 1, bank and insurance levy. A new 0.25% asset levy against banks and insurance companies meant to make big businesses play their share. Now, these costs could be passed down to customers, thus increasing the prices of premiums paid, as well as interest loans to the bank. So yes, you may be getting a cheaper car because they have raised the limit to 6 years, but the interest rate on the loans to get these vehicles will be higher. Number 2, landlord surcharges. Landlords are now required to register and pay 2.5 to 3.5% surcharge on rental income. So this means that rent will go up, and those businesses who are renting commercial spaces will feel the brunt of it, and by extension it will trickle down to the customer. So the money that is saved on the food basket bill that is excluded from VAT will either stay the same or raise to compensate for rental fees. Thus, the consumer loses. Number 3, electricity surcharge. Commercial and industrial users will now pay 5% more per kilowatt. This means that the cost of goods and services may rise because yet again, these businesses will pass this cost incurred on them to the consumer. So prepare yourself for a rise in services and a rise in products. Number 4, duty hikes. Rum, beer, cigarettes, taxes double. That's an extra $1 billion in revenue. However, with this raise in price, it is not guaranteed that people will still buy rum, beer, and cigarettes. So it can cost jobs due to less demand in the market. Number 5, luxury EV tax. Electric vehicles over $400,000 will now be heavily taxed. Now, why this is bad is because it will slow down green transition to electric vehicles, and majority of electric vehicles are expensive. So even though the price for super fuel drops by $1, that does not assist those who may have diesel vehicles, premium gas vehicles, as well as the traveling public. Number 6, LPG adjustment. Big cylinders, £100 and more, now cost more. So this will affect small businesses such as food vendors, and thus these costs will pass on to the consumer. So who is really winning here? And number 7, returning nationals lose tax break. So returning home gets a bit more pricier, and what encouragement does it give to someone to return home to Trinidad and Tobago, bringing with them knowledge in terms of business, academics, and decreasing the overall brain drain that we face in this country? So who really wins from this budget debate? Now, the small and middle class see small incremental wins, such as lower fuel prices, only super, as well as grocery items. Businesses and landlords face higher taxes, more than likely passing these costs off to consumers. Thus, everything raises. And more than likely, due to these raise in production costs, your salaries are more than likely not able to be raised. But overall, inflation, electricity surcharges, and duty hikes will hit small consumers the hardest. So yes, the speech sounds good, but being realistic and practical, it is not possible. This is because the main revenue earner of a government is taxation. And listening to the budget today, majority of the things that we earn tax revenue from is either being exempted or lower. To make up for this, the government has proposed to tax other sectors and other products. And this all makes what they have proposed null and void because it still increases the cost of living. It does not increase the wages, as well as it gives an illusion. So listening to the budget today, it sounded more like a campaign than an actual plan and a course of action. Now, this is just my thoughts and my opinion from what I've heard over the course of the day. So you can like, comment, share, and let's have a conversation, but do so thinking outside of the box and really analyzing what has been proposed in today's budget.
Minister Roger Alexander gave a blunt Emancipation Day message, stating that Africans in Trinidad and Tobago are becoming an endangered species, not from outside, but from within. We are still on a mental slave ship, he said, urging more focus on fixing families, stopping crime, and raising responsible young men. The minister made some good points. Mental liberation is unfinished. Internal challenges is real, and personal responsibility matters. However, his framing is problematic. He places primary blame on Africans themselves, minimizing the role of systematic equality, poverty, and historical disenfranchisement. Also, calling an entire people an endangered species is very dehumanizing language. He also overlooked the immense resilience, achievements, and cultural power African communities in Trinidad and Tobago have had, reducing a rich history to a narrative of problems. And as usual, you will let me know what you all think about the story.
Because all of that is taking place in the United States of America, where there's a push against the establishment and the construction of data centers, given their economic implications, the implications on our electricity grid, on our water infrastructure, and other environmental hazards associated with AI data centers. We got up one morning to hear a major announcement by the government of Trinidad and Tobago for the establishment of 2 data centers in this country. And the people of this country must ask themselves, what would have triggered that? Because I recall when I served as Minister of Public Utilities, many of these companies would come knocking on your doors for the establishment of these centers, these data centers, AI data centers. And there was one fact that attracted them to Trinidad and Tobago: cheap electricity and cheap water. Unit commitment, all major plants at Penal, Point Lisas, TGU, Cove, Standby, Oil Diesel would need to be committed daily. No flexibility remains for maintenance and outages. So if you have to shut down some of those units in order to undertake maintenance on a daily basis, you cannot shut down any. Because the minute you shut down any one of them, there will be widespread national blackout in Trinidad and in Tobago. Your economic dispatch, less efficient and more costly units would run continuously, increasing fuel costs and emissions.
Petrochin, Clico, Wassa, and now Caribbean Airlines. And the question is, why do government-run companies in Trinidad and Tobago keep performing so poorly? All the answers for this could be found in economics. Firstly, and one of the real big problems is that there's no consequence for losing money. Think about it this way. When a private firm loses money, well, then the owner of that firm know that the money is coming out of their pocket and they would have to bear the risk. When a government-run company loses money, they know that the government will come and bail them out. So there's no real consequence for making poor decisions and losing money. Economists call this soft budget constraint. This is when stakeholders know that a bailout will be coming, so it gives them no incentive to make hard decisions. A perfect example of this is Petrochin. Petrochin lost $8 billion between 2012 and 2017. However, the bailouts kept coming for the company. And we all know how that ended up, with Petrochin being closed in 2018 with over $15 million in debt. Problem 2 is that there's political interference rather than performance. The board gets filled up with political appointees, not necessarily the most qualified people for the job. And if you could remember the Lashley report on the Petrotrin refinery, it confirmed that decades of political interference is what killed Petrotrin in the end. There's a strong culture of nepotism within Trinidad and Tobago, and this is not excluding the public sector. So when government-run companies make political appointments instead of appointing the most qualified people, this causes a lot of inefficiencies within the business. Also look at CAL right now. 8 senior executives, including the CEO, CFO, and CIO, all left. When that much talent leaves that fast, it's a signal. Problem 3, there's no transparency in any of these government-run companies. Look at the example of CAL again. For over 9 years, Caribbean Airlines has not released an audited financial statement. This is because state enterprises answer to politicians. They do not answer to the public. We had the same problem with Petrotrin. There was no audited financials released for many years. Now, Clico, this is a different case. It was a private company, not a state enterprise, but it controlled over $100 billion in assets across 32 different countries. We're talking about banking, insurance, energy, real estate. And when it collapsed in 2009, it was too big to fail. Ordinary people lost their life savings and taxpayers still paid over $28 billion in bailouts. We can learn from Clico is that weak regulation and also political closeness could cause you everything, whether you're a state-run enterprise or a private company. Here's a pattern economists see every single time. A state enterprise is created and the government makes political appointments. And that is when the losing begins for the company. Transparency disappears, the government quietly covers the losses year after year after year. And by the time the public finds out how bad it really is, it's already too late. Doesn't that sound like a similar script for us here in Trinidad and Tobago? Petrotrin, $12 billion in debt, and then 7,000 jobs gone overnight. Clico, $28 billion of your money spent on a bailout. Caribbean Airlines possibly heading down the same exact road as previous failures. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't about one government or one company. It's a structural problem built into how these enterprises are governed. Strong governance, real accountability and transparency are not optional extras, and we treat it as very optional things in Trinidad and Tobago. Until that changes, the cycle won't stop and ordinary people will keep paying the price. Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you think about this? Why do government companies always fail in your opinion? Leave them in the comment section below and also like the video and follow us if I help you understand and learn about economics within Trinidad and Tobago.
For that, the PNM had one for 3 months. And if the police have been unable to gather the information, to change the intelligence into evidence to charge, your only plan has to be to continue to roll states of emergency. But I am warning you, the population is not going to accept that. The population right now, you can feel the mood. I don't know where you all live and where you all interact with the population, but you just need to go outside onto the streets. You just need to listen to people in the groceries, in the markets, etc. The population is reaching a boiling point. I heard the member for Urupuch East refer to a short while ago and disparagingly talk to the members on this side who all are educated, properly educated, with their proper qualifications and understanding the history not only of Trinidad and Tobago, but the history of the globe. Refer to 1990. Jack Warner refers to 1990 here as well. We are reaching a point because it is all intertwined. You fire 48,000 of the most vulnerable citizens in our society. They have not been provided with jobs. They have no way to become employable easily and to have food on the table. And now you're suppressing the young people and telling them you can't go, you can't protest, you can't talk about this, you can't talk about that, locking up a young girl and her mother. Why is that necessary? Pull them aside, talk to them, say, listen, you don't do this, like the rest of everybody there. Right? It's a joke to you all. Everything was a joke for the member for Urukuchis. Nobody here is laughing. The citizens are not laughing.
Everybody still has their work. The Attorney General has announced that he still has full confidence in the Homeland Security Minister and the police service after what has been exposed. The translation: nobody's getting fired today. The Hadid case may be making more twists than a tornado, but the government's message is still the same. We stand by our people. The public, well, what about all the confusion? The government still confident. The opposition asking for resignations. The government confidence. The court has already made their case. The government still confident. At this point, confidence deserves its own cabinet position. And with this UNC government, the only place where the plot changes daily, but the ending is always we have full confidence. So we'll keep paying attention to this one, though I find it to be very comical. Looking forward to seeing your comments. If you are not yet following the page, make sure and do so, and keep the comments clean, because you know what we do here. Once it's not friendly, media friendly, we will delete you and block you. Yeah? So stay tuned. Take care.
Okay, we can all agree both governments are terrible. Everyone dwells on what's the solution for the people. Well, logically, as far as I see it, if option A has always proven to be shit and option B has proven itself to also be shit, why not try option C? And I know most people predisposition whenever it comes to election to choose either between PNM or UNC, but why not get some new blood into power? Like, at least give them a try for a term. The reason why I'm saying this is because I highly doubt something like a bad sci-fi action movie plot gonna happen, where a criminal organization organizes a political party, somehow wins, and then turns Trinidad and Tobago into a criminal state. I don't think that that's gonna happen. Alright? At best, the new people might do some good for the people, while also making a few mistakes here and there. At least you could give them the leeway that, yeah, this is the first time you run a whole country, is not as easy as it seems. You'll get the hang of it. PNM and UNC has been ping-ponging back and forth into and out of power for God knows how long, and we've hardly ever seen any change. Put something new inside it. I highly doubt it's going to be some criminal intelligence spy that just ran for election and then somehow went and then decided, hey boss, as the prime minister now, you want the entire nation? Like, I don't think that's going to happen. Like, realistically, I don't think that's going to happen.
It is quite curious that the People's National Movement appears more focused on questioning why it must account for the financing of the construction of Balasier House than on simply producing the receipts. In the latest salvo, High Court Judge Margaret Mohammed had to outline why the court granted a preliminary unexplained wealth order to determine the source of funds used to construct Balasier House in response to legal queries on behalf of the People's National Movement. According to Justice Mohammed, there were reasonable grounds to suspect that the value of the construction of Balasier House substantially exceeded the obtained income, which satisfied the threshold under the Civil Asset Recovery and Management and Unexplained Wealth Act, 2019. The order followed a 21-page affidavit from Acting Assistant Commissioner of Police Ramdath Philip, who outlined payments and transactions that reportedly raised serious questions about claims that Balasier House was financed solely through fundraising events, raffles, and party donations. The development comes months after Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar told Parliament on March 13 that Balasier House was built with blood money from local drug mafia financiers. It is unclear why producing the receipt seems so difficult, given that former Works and Transport Minister Rohan Sinanan could assist with the accounting, as he publicly displayed what $1 million in cash looks like.
See that box in front of you there? That is what $1 million look like if you put it in a Carib case. That is $1 million. It fills a Carib case, $1 million. What is $2 million there from?
Some people may think explaining the state's reasoning means defending the state. It doesn't. For entertainment and educational purposes only, let's chat Trinbago. Yesterday, I explained why it appears that the state fights legal claims instead of admitting wrongdoing immediately. Understanding why the state functions the way it does is not the same as agreeing with what it does. And it doesn't matter which government is in office. The intent of these videos is not to challenge the system, but to help us better understand how the system thinks. The state isn't a person operating on emotion. It's an institution with legal duties, financial responsibilities, and long-term concerns. As I said before, its lawyers are expected to protect public funds, defend legal processes, and avoid creating precedent that could expose taxpayers to significant financial liability. That's their job. But here's where the conversation becomes more complicated. I don't believe every claim is viewed through the lens of financial risk, legal precedent, and institutional protection. However, in some cases, those concerns can become significant. And there's a legitimate question about whether accountability could become secondary. Let's ask a different question. If the state admitted liability and settled claims too readily, how many similar claims could follow? One successful case can encourage dozens, hundreds, or even thousands of people in similar situations to come forward. Think about that. Perhaps that's one reason why obtaining justice can sometimes feel so frustrating. If those claims are ultimately proven to be valid, the total cost could reach hundreds of millions of dollars. And that's not an exaggeration. On the other hand, we should also remember that fraudsters and opportunists exist. These legal processes are also intended to protect public funds from illegitimate claims. From the state's perspective, that's money that could have otherwise been spent on hospitals, schools, policing, social services, etc. Always bear in mind that we are the taxpayers. That is our money. So, the state often chooses to contest claims, not simply because it believes it could win, but because every case can have consequences beyond the individual standing in the courtroom. Whether we agree with that post, that's another matter entirely. The difficult question is this. I'll ask it again. When does protecting taxpayers' money become protecting the state from accountability? Because while the Treasury deserves protection, so do the rights of citizens when their rights have clearly been infringed upon. A government must be able to defend the public funds, but it must also be willing to accept responsibility when things go wrong, or when they get things wrong. The challenge is finding the balance between those two responsibilities. Understanding the balance does not excuse misconduct. It simply helps us to understand the system that we are asking to be accountable. Is it starting to make sense now? Tell me, what do you think? Until next time, Trinbago, I love you. But please be respectful in the comments. Thank you. Bye.
Oh, how the turntables have turned into turning tables, or however that saying goes. So, remember from an earlier video how I said the biggest liability to this country is the older generation constantly believing the lies that the government trying to tell them so they could get the vote? Well, I found another problem, and yes, it still has to do with the older generation. And this one is ironic. Hilariously ironic, because think about this, right? From way before when we was younger, adults used to tell we you will never get anything in this life if you're not willing to work for it. But now fast forward to today, is the younger generation that willing to go and protest, that willing to have groups and rallies to demand a better Trinidad and Tobago. And then when you ask the adults what they're gonna be doing about it, and well, I say adults as in adultier adults, like older adults, that generation is already adults already. I'm just talking about the older adults. You ask them what they're gonna be doing about it, if they're gonna be joining in to support the cause. What are they saying? Rally? Me? Protest? But them not paying my paycheck, alright? I go and work for my money. The same money that not really helping me that much, and I'm looking for a second job and a side hustle. But me go and protest and miss out on that? Like, nah. I go and keep giving the people who holding me back exactly what they want from me while I don't get nothing in return. Yeah. You see how there's a problem? You see how that's an ironic problem? Because when things get harder and shit hit the fan, right? The same older generation go and be bawling the loudest, all you're ruining the country. It's all your fault. Insert political party name here, because if they're not blaming UNC, they're blaming PNM. That is almost psychologically ingrained into their mind at this point. So yeah, you can see how that is a little bit of honesty, right? You see how that's a problem?
In the last 5 years, China removed over 12,000 university degrees. 12,000! That's over 30% of every undergraduate program in the country. This wasn't a trim, it was a wipe. And it didn't hit useless subjects randomly. It hit entire categories. Arts, humanities, foreign languages, Japanese, gone. Management, marketing, logistics, advertising, gone. Even drama, animation, art design, gone. How did China decide what to cut? Every degree gets scored on a graduate unemployment rate and job quality. Score badly for 2 years and the program shuts down permanently. That's the process behind 12,000 removed degrees. And taking their slots are 10,000 new majors, almost all from 3 buckets: AI and data science, robotics and automation, advanced manufacturing and chip design. 9 universities also added embodied intelligence, which are degrees in building humanoid robots. This isn't universities updating their syllabus. This is a government rewriting what an entire generation should study, because it already decided what the next decade needs: robotics, chips, humanoid robots. That is also China's answer to a youth unemployment rate sitting above 16%. Not by creating jobs for degrees that exist, but by building the degrees around the jobs it wants to create. So the next time you wonder if your degree will still matter in 5 years, remember, China didn't wait to find out. It redesigned the degrees years beforehand.
Negative outlook reflects the possibility of a downgrade, absent meaningful and timely steps to strengthen public finances, ensure balanced economic growth, and maintain the country's strong external profile. But S&P went on to say more. They say there's a 1 in 3 chance that we'll have a downgrade over the next 12 months. That will send us into what is called junk status. And they went on to say the country's long-term growth has been slow, while fiscal and external buffers have weakened. Have you heard any of those loudmouth economists at UWI talk about this? That S&P is predicting that the economy will contract in 2026, confirming it contracted in 2025, confirming that there's a possibility of a downgrade coming because of the economic mismanagement of this government? It's a rhetorical question. The answer is no. So I am urging everyone, grow a backbone, grow a conscience, do honest analysis, let the country know what is really going on with our economy, because we are not in a good place.
Trinidad and Tobago, pleasant good evening. Now, I'm now reading that they are giving presidential pardon to 17 unknown people. You giving presidential pardon to 17 convicted criminals, while you are holding innocent people under PDO, while you are locking up people for phone conversation, for private phone conversations that you illegally got or intercepted. And you're even locking people up who had no dealings, no part, who was not even probably in the house when that phone conversation was going on. Somebody make this make sense. Somebody make this make sense while I drink my blue waters. I don't understand. I'm not understanding what it is going on. You holding people for saying words like coolie and locking them away while you calling yourself a stinking coolie is a word that you have used on yourself many times before. And you locking up people for that. You holding people for going online and venting because of the shit all you're doing. And now you're telling me all are given presidential pardon to convicted felons and criminals. Anyway, that is what I'll vote for, yes? Yellow is the scourge. Try and enjoy all the evening.
Canadian firm, and they're ready to sign. I think they're here in Trinidad right now. And we just signed an MOU.
Well done. Well done.
That's a $50 million US investment that will go to $150 million US investment. The old Iscot Ispat plant, because it has a melt shop, after over 100 years of industrialization, you know, this country have more than almost any country in the region, or in fact, the world. We have scrap coming out of our ears. They will buy every pound of scrap that we have. Do you know we produce 1.1 million tires every year, discarded? They're buying all the tires too. So they clean up the country. They're buying all the scrap, also signed the MOU with the Americans for the reopening of the steel plant. That's a major achievement, because that will give us about 1.5 billion US a year in exports for the steel. Because right now, Nucor alone is the second largest non-oil exporter, 8 times more than the third place.
Your government has three arms, and if any one of them collapse, the whole system goes with it. In Trinidad and Tobago, the power is split deliberately between three branches: the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. Legislative branch is the parliament. This is what makes laws. Parliament is made up of two houses. The first house is the lower house, or the House of Representatives. This is made up of 41 members who won their respective seats at the elections. Currently, the House of Representatives is split 26 to the UNC, 13 to the PNM, and 2 to the Tobago People's Party. The other house in the parliament is called the Senate. These are made up of appointed individuals. 16 of them are appointed by the Prime Minister, 6 of them are appointed by the opposition leader, and then 9 independent senators are appointed by the President herself. This is to keep things fair in the Senate, that not one party could have all the control. Next, we have the executive branch. This is the cabinet, led by the Prime Minister. They run the day-to-day business of the government: policies, spending, and national direction. The current executive branch of Trinidad and Tobago right now made up of all the ministers. Some of them are familiar faces, some of them you might not know. But this is the executive branch of Trinidad and Tobago. Lastly, we have the judicial branch. Judiciary, which is the courts, they interpret the law and make sure nobody, not even the government, is above them. In Trinidad and Tobago, we have the regular magistrates, then we have the Supreme Court, the High Court, and the Appeal Court. The highest court of all in Trinidad and Tobago is not even in the country. It's called the Privy Council in England. If you ever hear about any case going to the Privy Council, just know it's a big deal, and it's the highest court in the land. This separation isn't just textbook stuff. It's the guardrail that stops any one person or group from having unlimited control in our country. The Senate can push back on the House, the courts can strike down unconstitutional legislation, the President acts as a check on the executive overreach. 3 branches, 3 sets of eyes. That's what a functional democracy looks like. If you didn't learn this in school, make sure and share the video. Also like and follow us always, and leave your thoughts in the comment section below.
A ban on anything crypto for 2 years. So, Trinidad is about to go into the second reading of the Virtual Asset and Virtual Asset Service Provider Bill this coming Friday. And the goal, as we understand it, is to regulate crypto and cryptocurrency service providers, but the language is so broad that it actually is a ban on anything crypto for 2 years. So what that means is crypto apps, traders, anyone who is selling will not be able to operate in Trinidad until the end of 2027. So simple online payments, anything that you used for your day-to-day life, including receiving money from family, is at risk of something that you just won't be able to use anymore. Here at GWAP, we're not against regulation. In fact, I really welcome regulation. I'm really glad that this conversation is happening. However, we need smart regulation that does not cut off people from their everyday needs. This is urgent. The bill is going to go into second reading tomorrow. So I want you to go sign the petition, link in bio, to make sure your voices are heard. We need your help. See you later.
What's up? It's a very good morning here in Africa. Thank you so much for always showing up. I don't take it for granted. In today's video, we are going to listen to Trinidadians and their leaders also speaking about the government's performance from way back, or what they have been saying ever since. So I don't know if you've noticed that a growing political debate in Trinidad Tobago is happening left, right, center. And many of the Trinidadians are actually asking if the government is doing enough or if the country is moving in the wrong direction. So I want us to look at both sides to explore what Trinidadians are saying and also to look at the political atmosphere, which happens to be really intense. Guys, I don't know if you've noticed that every week brings in new discussions on this political arena, while the parliament in itself remains to be very busy. So the government ministers defend their policies, of course, and because they are in that particular seat and docket, so of course they'll defend. The oppositions also, they tend to challenge all these policies that are in place. And what happens in the background is that Trinidadians remain to watch closely. So many people in Trinidad and Tobago are saying that, you know what, the government is actually, the current government has inherited difficult situation. And I know you watched this particular clip of a leader saying that UNC inherited like over 70 years of difficult problems from PNM. So, of course, there are those that will argue that change takes time and pointing out to the ongoing projects. So, anyway, they talk about reforms that cannot happen, that it cannot happen in an overnight or just in a flip of a time, you know. Anyway, not everybody will agree with that. That those who will tend to disagree like immediately, and for them they'll be like, you see, progress is too slow to notice, but if you are just a little bit patient, then all is gonna be well. And again, you see, these people that are opposing the government, what they want is just quicker actions, you know, faster action, and they expect better results. If you look at crime activities in Trinidad and Tobago, it's one of the biggest concerns at the moment. What families want is a safer community. What business owners want is security so that they can actually do their business. Parents also, they get to worry about their children. So at the end of the day, you'll see everybody complaining about crime activities that affects their daily life. As much as some believe that stronger strategies and policing is needed, others still want more jobs for the young people, saying that opportunity cannot reduce crime. I don't know if you actually agree with that particular point. They also believe that the cost of living is another major issue, whereby food prices remain to be high, and it always goes high from back then. So many households in the community, they feel the pressure because as much as they're getting paid for those who work, it does not stretch as far as they actually would want. Others have had to cut unnecessary items or expenses, and what they just want is that the government to look into the economy of the country and offer an economic relief, at least reduce the prices of fuel, because you see it's fuel that normally affects everything. So investors also, oh my god, these people, they're the heartbeat, and also the farmers, they're the heartbeat of the economy of any country, not just Trinidad and Tobago. So they want development, they want so many other good things, I mean relief, so that at least they can have this better chance and opportunity to do business in Trinidad and Tobago. So the UNC people are saying that, eventually this effort will pay off. We just need to remain focused and patient. But the opposition leaders, the opposition people, oh my god, these people always remain unconvinced, because them, they just don't like immediate. You see, when you talk about immediate results, faster actions, those are the things that they want. For them, they are not like they are waiting for anything. They just want immediate improvement of life. And when you ask an ordinary citizen about these particular types of debates, they'll actually tell you that, oh, we are suffering. What we need is the government to do better, look into the economy and stop more borrowing. Anyway, Parliament has become the center of many debates over the years, and the members of the government always defend their decision. So the opposition leaders and opposition members, on the other hand, demand accountability, transparency, and they tend to raise so many questions. Of course, with these questions, answers are expected, right? Every debate attracts public attention at the end of the day. Social media, when people come out and talk about something, there is always a quick reaction, especially if it's a leader who has spoken out. Every word to them, or anything that they say in social media, it receives a reaction. So the UNC supporters, they tend to praise the government speeches, and I'm not talking about the UNC, even the previous governments, but the opposition will criticize, honestly. Remember that in a country, or even in your home, not everybody will agree to what you are actually planning. So we have videos that we have attached here, and I know, people are talking about better health care. People are talking about when they go to the hospital, they just want shorter waiting times. And the doctors, they need better resources in Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidadians need a reliable healthcare system and medical services. Education is another key topic that we always need to talk about, because education opens our mind, education improves innovation, and innovation betters our nation. So parents want better and quality schools, teachers want more support from the government, and the students, they hope for a better opportunities. Young Trinidadians, I can tell you, these people always talk about their future, because their future actually depends on the administration that is ruling the country. Because if they don't come up with industries, if they don't promote innovation, then it's gonna be sad. Because these people see hope in everything that the government does. However, others feel extremely frustrated, and what they just want is stable jobs, stable income, better pay. They want reasons to stay and build Trinidad and Tobago. They don't have reasons that will make them go away and do what we call a brain drain. So infrastructure, we can't miss talking about it, because the roads, they need repairs. They need, Trinidadian farmers, Trinidadians business people, Trinidadians themselves, they want good roads to be perfect and at least better. Of course, most of these third world countries, it's not like they have like one of the best roads, but at least if there is what you can see or call better, then good, we are good to go. If you look at the communities that live around the towns, the Port of Spain, they want a better drainage system. Some few days ago, I showed you this particular clip of Trinidadian that was going around drainage systems, and there was a lot of items or that blocked the drainage system. And that will mean that if it rains, then it's gonna be bad. So most people in Trinidad and Tobago, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, they expect that public projects, once they have been launched, then it needs to be completed on time. The government supporters are saying that, yeah, the improvements are happening, change is happening, positive change is happening, but it takes time. And it's very difficult for opposition to understand that, because for them they feel like it's not going really, really fast. And I can tell you, I mean, both sides, if you look at it, they are presenting strong arguments. Political leaders know the public is watching. So every decision, every speech, every vote does matter. So as the next political battles approach, then we expect that discussions will continue to happen. Trinidadians will want leadership, and they will want leaders who are honest and leaders who will be accountable, and of course they want results. The future of Trinidad and Tobago depends on many factors: government policies, parliamentary debate, if they're going to debate on better bills or not, public participation. I mean, every citizen's voice matters. Every opinion counts. That's why we always attach their clips here. Now, guys, I really want to hear from you. Do you think that the government is doing a good job, or should there be changes that needs to be done? Remember, these particular clips I attached even from the previous government, so that we can hear, like, is there anything different between the two administrations? Thank you so much if you watched the clip up to this point. I truly appreciate your presence. I don't take it for granted. I'll see you in the next video.